The chill of New Year's Eve, 1988, was a familiar bite in Dallas, Texas. It clung to the humid air, promising not snow, but that particular brand of briskness that makes the city lights feel a little brighter, the anticipation a little sharper. For Sarah Jenkins, 34, a single mother navigating the intricate dance of two jobs and two teenagers, the promise of a celebratory evening felt like a rare, hard-earned luxury. Her modest home in Oak Cliff, a neighborhood clinging to its charm despite the encroaching shadows of urban development, hummed with the quiet chaos of last-minute preparations. The aroma of microwave popcorn mingled with the faint scent of hairspray, a testament to Emily, her 16-year-old daughter, getting ready for a friend's gathering across town. Michael, her 12-year-old son, was engrossed in a video game, the pixelated bleeps and boops a soundtrack to their lives. Sarah worked as a teller at a local bank during the day and picked up shifts at a diner on weekends. Her hands, calloused and strong, told the story of a woman who built her life brick by brick, sacrifice by sacrifice. She dreamed of sending Emily to college, of giving Michael a life free from the struggles she'd known. Tonight, though, was about letting go, just for a few hours. Her friend, Lisa Harding, had convinced her to join a small New Year's Eve party in Uptown, promising good music, familiar faces, and a chance to forget the daily grind. Sarah had initially hesitated, guilt gnawing at her for leaving the kids, but Emily had insisted, "Mom, go, you deserve a night out, we'll be fine." The last images etched into Emily's memory were of her mother, dressed in a simple but elegant black dress, a silver necklace glinting under the porch light. Sarah's auburn hair was styled meticulously, a rare indulgence. She wore a confident smile, a touch of red lipstick, the only bold statement in her otherwise practical life. "All right, you two," Sarah had said, her voice warm, a hint of excitement in her tone. "Mrs. Rodriguez next door knows I'm heading out. Don't cause trouble, be in bed by midnight, and I'll see you in the morning. Have fun, but not too much fun." She kissed Emily on the forehead, then ruffled Michael's hair. "Love you both." Emily remembered waving from the doorway as Sarah climbed into her old, reliable blue Ford Escort, its taillights fading into the misty Dallas night. The clock on the wall read 9:17 p.m. It was the last time Emily or Michael would ever see their mother. New Year's Day dawned with a chilling silence in the Jenkins household. The usual morning bustle was absent. Emily woke first, the lingering taste of yesterday's celebration in her mouth. She checked her mother's bedroom, empty. The car was gone from the driveway. At first, she thought Sarah had simply stayed out later than expected, perhaps gone directly to Lisa's for coffee. But as the morning wore on, and then the afternoon, a cold dread began to seep into her bones. Sarah wasn't one to miss New Year's Day breakfast with her kids, let alone disappear without a word. She tried Lisa's number, but the line was busy, then no answer. Emily's teenage intuition, usually dismissed, screamed something was terribly wrong. By late afternoon, unable to shake the rising panic, Emily called Mrs. Rodriguez, who, equally concerned, advised her to call the police. The Dallas Police Department, overwhelmed with calls on a holiday, initially treated it as a runaway adult. Sarah Jenkins, a mother of two, a responsible worker, was inexplicably gone. Officer Miller, a gruff but kind-eyed veteran, took the initial report. He asked Emily about any arguments, any boyfriends, any troubles. Emily, feeling an injustice burn within her, insisted her mother wouldn't just leave. "She loves us, she wouldn't do this." The initial investigation was cursory. They checked the party location, interviewed Lisa Harding, who confirmed Sarah had never arrived. Her friends were baffled, worried. No one had seen her. The Ford Escort was also missing. The following days bled into weeks, then months, a cruel, relentless march of time. The DPD interviewed Sarah's ex-husband, Robert, who lived in Fort Worth and maintained an alibi, though strained, for the holiday. He was remarried and had limited contact with Sarah, mostly concerning child support. Her colleagues at the bank and diner offered no insight, describing Sarah as diligent and private. Officer Miller pursued leads, but each one dead-ended. There were no signs of forced entry at her home, no frantic calls, no ransom demands. It was as if Sarah Jenkins had simply evaporated into the Dallas night, leaving behind two bewildered children and a gaping hole in the community. Flyers with Sarah's smiling face, the same one Emily remembered from that final wave, soon blanketed utility poles across Oak Cliff, their edges curling in the Texas humidity. Missing person billboards appeared on Central Expressway, staring out at the ceaseless flow of traffic, silent pleas for information. The hardest part for Emily and Michael was the chilling uncertainty. Every knock on the door, every ringing phone brought a surge of hope. immediately followed by the crushing weight of disappointment. Michael, young and fragile, retreated into himself, his grades slipping, his bright spirit dimming. Emily, forced into premature adulthood, became her brother's protector, carrying the immense burden of her mother's absence. She meticulously kept a binder, a growing collection of newspaper clippings, police reports, and her own handwritten notes, desperate for a clue, any detail the police might have missed. She developed an almost encyclopedic knowledge of missing persons cases, devouring true crime books, convinced that if she understood the patterns, she could find her mother. The DPD, after exhausting what few leads they had, eventually assigned Sarah's case to the cold case files, a euphemism for the shelf for the forgotten. Officer Miller, now promoted, would occasionally check in with Emily, a quiet acknowledgement of the family's enduring pain, but he had no new information, no new hope to offer. The years that followed were a testament to the resilience of the human spirit, yet also to the enduring scars of unresolved grief. Emily finished high school, then put herself through community college, working evenings at a bookstore. Michael found solace in art, his drawings often depicting a solitary woman gazing into the distance. They moved out of the Oak Cliff house when Emily turned 18, the memories too potent, the emptiness too vast. But neither of them ever truly moved on. The specter of their mother's disappearance haunted every milestone, every celebration, every quiet moment of reflection. Birthdays, Christmases, New Year's Eves, each was a stark reminder of what they had lost and the lingering question mark that defined their lives. Emily remained in Dallas, an anchor to the place her mother vanished, always hoping, always watching. She became a strong advocate for other missing persons' families, her personal tragedy fueling a fierce determination to help others avoid the same limbo. 14 years blurred by, turning 1988 into a distant, almost mythological past. It was now 2002. The world had changed dramatically. Cell phones, once clunky novelties, were ubiquitous. The internet was a daily presence. Forensic science, once a fledgling field, had undergone a revolution. DNA analysis, which barely existed in 1988 as a practical investigative tool, was now sophisticated and routine. Emily, now 30, received a call she had almost given up hoping for. It was from Detective Sanchez, a young, tenacious officer assigned to the DPD's newly formed cold case unit. Miss Jenkins, his voice was crisp, professional, yet held a note of genuine urgency. We've reopened your mother's case. We're looking at all the evidence with fresh eyes and with some of the new technologies available to us. Emily's heart hammered against her ribs. 14 years of silence had taught her caution, but a flicker of the old hope, dormant for so long, reignited. The DPD's cold case unit had decided to re-examine all the physical evidence from Sarah's 1988 disappearance. This included items from her home, from the last known location of her car. The old Ford Escort had been found abandoned at a Greyhound bus station parking lot near downtown Dallas 3 days after her disappearance, wiped clean of prints, and even a small, seemingly insignificant collection of debris from the roadside curb near the bus station. Among these older pieces of evidence was a single, faded white work glove, discovered wedged deep in the grime beneath the driver's seat of Sarah's abandoned car. In 1988, forensic technology couldn't extract enough usable material from its grimy surface. But 2002 was different. Detective Sanchez explained the breakthrough. We sent that glove, along with other items, to the state forensics lab for advanced DNA testing. Specifically, we used touch DNA analysis, something we couldn't even dream of back then. The results had come back late last night. The glove contained trace amounts of DNA, not Sarah's, but from an unknown male. A quick cross-reference with the CODIS National DNA Database yielded a hit. The DNA belonged to a man named Arthur Hayes. Arthur Hayes. The name meant nothing to Emily, nothing to Michael, nothing to the original investigators. He wasn't Sarah's ex-husband, not a boyfriend, not a friend, not even an acquaintance mentioned in any of her diaries or phone logs. He was a ghost from a different life. Detective Sanchez, however, had followed the lead. Arthur Hayes, 52, was currently incarcerated in a state prison in Huntsville, Texas, serving time for an aggravated assault committed in 1998, a decade after Sarah's disappearance. Hayes had a long, albeit nonviolent, criminal record in the 80s: petty theft, public intoxication, minor drug offenses. He had worked odd jobs around Dallas, including as a night attendant at a gas station not far from the Greyhound bus station where Sarah's car was found. This was the moment the seemingly unconnected strands of time and fate finally intertwined. Detective Sanchez and his partner traveled to Huntsville. They interviewed Arthur Hayes. He was a hardened man, his eyes dull, his spirit broken by years of incarceration. Initially, he denied everything, claimed he'd never known a Sarah Jenkins. But when presented with the undeniable DNA evidence from the glove, the very glove he had likely used to wipe down Sarah's car, his carefully constructed facade began to crumble. The detective played a recording of Emily's voice, a plea from a television interview from years ago, asking for anyone with information to come forward. Something in Hayes snapped. The confession was slow, painful, delivered in fits and starts over several hours. Arthur Hayes had seen Sarah that New Year's Eve. He was working the night shift at the gas station, supplementing his meager income with a few illegal side hustles. He had been drinking heavily. Sarah had stopped at his station late that night after leaving her home. She was on her way to the party, but felt a sudden, inexplicable urge to check her tire pressure. She was a meticulous person, always ensuring everything was in order. Hayes, seeing a woman alone, vulnerable, and in a festive dress, saw an opportunity. He offered to help with her tire, then distracted her, got into her car. The details were murky, obscured by alcohol and the passage of time, but the outcome was horrifyingly clear. He had driven her to a secluded, wooded area on the outskirts of Grand Prairie, a city west of Dallas, a place he knew well from his days wandering. There, under the moonless sky of New Year's Eve, 1988, Sarah Jenkins' life had been brutally cut short. Her body, he admitted, had been buried in a shallow grave near a creek bed, covered with brush and forgotten. He had taken her car, driven it back to Dallas, wiped it down, and left it at the bus station, hoping it would look like she had simply fled. The white glove, a souvenir of his illicit work, had remained, an unwitting witness. The DPD, armed with Hayes' detailed confession and the DNA evidence, immediately dispatched a forensic team to the specified location in Grand Prairie. The area was now overgrown, nearly unrecognizable, but after days of meticulous searching, they found her. Sarah Jenkins' remains, almost entirely skeletal, were unearthed from the damp soil, still bearing fragments of the black dress she had worn that fateful night. The silver necklace, tarnished but intact, lay near her collarbone. The news ripped through Emily and Michael like a physical blow, a tsunami of grief, relief, and unimaginable pain. Their mother was found. The mystery which had consumed their lives for 14 years was finally solved. There was a killer, a name, an explanation, however brutal. Emily, now a seasoned advocate, faced the cameras with a mixture of tears and defiant strength. "This isn't closure," she stated, her voice trembling but clear. "Closure implies an ending. My mother's story ended tragically, but our pain, the pain of knowing what she endured, will never truly end. But we have answers. We have her back. And for that, we can begin to heal." Arthur Hayes, already in prison, was charged with the murder of Sarah Jenkins. The overwhelming evidence, including his confession and the DNA, left no room for doubt. He pleaded guilty, avoiding a long and painful trial for Emily and Michael. Justice, in its slow, often agonizing crawl, had finally arrived. The funeral for Sarah Jenkins, 14 years overdue, was a quiet, solemn affair. Emily and Michael, surrounded by a small group of family and friends who had stood by them through the long years, finally laid their mother to rest. The headstone, simple and elegant, bore her name, her birth and death years, and a poignant epitaph. "Loved, missed, never forgotten, finally home." The Dallas wind still whispered through the oak trees, but for Emily and Michael, the gnawing silence that had defined their lives for so long was finally replaced by a fragile, hard-won peace. The memory of her fading taillights in the misty New Year's Eve of 1988 would always linger, but now a new image would accompany it. The enduring strength of a mother's love, finally resting, finally found.